What's going on, fam? First of all, before we do anything, can y'all just let me know if you can hear me? I don't really know what happened to my levels. Everything's been acting up today. First, nobody got notifications. That was the first thing that happened. Nobody got a notification. And then nothing would come through. So you can hear me, fam? Great. Seems like we're doing better. So I appreciate it. Because I couldn't tell. Fam, listen, we got a lot to talk about. But first, let's get to the housekeeping because... And then the thing came through private. I don't even know what was going on today. But listen, fam. Remember on, I think, the 24th, we're going to have this. That is a Thursday. Yes, that is a Thursday. We will be having the book club to have this discussion. We will be having the book club to have this discussion. So, please make sure if you... Please, blocked you where? Where I blocked you at? You must have been acting up. Don't act up. Anyway, so we're going to have this discussion on the 24th of October. So let's not forget that. Please hit the like button. Please hit the share button. Please do all of those good things. We're going to try to get through here since we had a little technical difficulties. You had to been acting up. But we must have been having some technical difficulties. So we're going to get right into it, fam. We're going to try to get into it. But please hit the like button. Please share. Please go to donatebrown.com. I would appreciate it. You can also go to patreon.com/ycarnell. If you can't afford to do any of that, Black Life, please go to subscribe2brown.com. Like I said, please hit the like button. Please hit that notifications button if you have not done that. Please hit the subscribe button. There are so many things you can do that don't involve money, but it is still a contribution. So I would appreciate it if you would do that. Oh, it doesn't feel good not being able to see my levels. So if I scream, I can't tell because I can't see my levels. So just bear with me, everybody. Just try to bear with me because I can't see the levels. Anyway, we have to talk. A lot of people have been talking about this. Supreme Court is divided over gay, transgender, job bias, and civil rights case to be decided during 2020 election. There have been numerous conversations about this online and elsewhere, and you have to handle these things with care. You have to handle these things with great care. You have to handle these things with very, very, very care because if not, you can get into lots of trouble. But I decided that there's no way that we can have this conversation. That we cannot have this conversation. There's no way that we can have this conversation without having this conversation in a very specific way. Because when you see this kind of, there's a lot of co-opting and shoehorning inside of other shoehorning that's going on. Right? So for those who aren't aware of the case or hadn't really heard or hadn't really researched, I just want to give you a little bit of background from this article, gives a little bit of context. Supreme Court's LGBT discrimination decision hinges on the test of the Civil Rights Act. Ain't that about to be? So we're going to just give you a little bit of what's going on. Now I want to tell you what it means for us and the limitations of black politics. Put a pin in that. We're going to come all the way back around. So the three cases will basically ask two questions. First, does the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibit discrimination against transgender people, either because they are transgender or because of stereotypes about how people of a certain gender are supposed to act? And second, does the Civil Rights Act prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation? But There was no such thing as sexual orientation protections in the 1960s when the Civil Rights Act was passed. So sex in the history and context of the law was not meant to apply to LGBT Americans. This is all getting very interesting. Bear with me, fam. A key portion of the law banned discrimination of employees based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. But the word sex was not originally supposed to be part of the law. Let me repeat that. The word sex was not originally supposed to be part of the law. Lawmakers did not initially intend to protect women from employment discrimination under the Civil Rights Act. In fact, other parts of the law did not address or protect women. Now let me just help everybody understand what's happening here. ADOS built a movement. That movement led to the Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, all of that. Wasn't supposed to include women. Wasn't even supposed to have sex. They shoehorned their way into that. Women shoehorned their way into that. And now gay and transgender people are shoehorning into the shoehorn. So you have an LGBT movement that is shoehorning into the shoehorn. Now, if this sounds familiar to you, if some of you watched, if some of you went to paulsowers.com a while back ago, he had an article about holding all the slavery. Michelle Alexander, Jose Antonio Vargas, and new citizenship of the same old not blackness. Now, in that article, what it showed was he had this whole Latino argument for we're just kind of like piggybacking on ADOSness. You know, we're he talked about James Baldwin. He talked about a whole lot of people, but he talked about a whole lot of black people. Maya Angelou, all this ADOS, throw this ADOS at the wall because people love it. What he didn't talk about was his life in a good neighborhood that was built off of anti-blackness. He didn't talk about how his family had accessed whiteness in a way that we've never been allowed to in terms of normalization, not in terms of color. This race thing was something invented by white supremacists in the first place. He never talked about that. And he never talked about, let's just get specific, people. You have to talk about, there have been specific immigration advocates in this country. Why aren't you bringing them up? Why are you only bringing up black people? Why are you only bringing up James Baldwin and Maya Angelou and the civil rights movement and civil rights leaders? Why aren't you bringing up immigration leaders in this country and building off that? Because that is your movement. It's not this. That is not this. Everything is not the new black. Nothing is the new ADOS. It is not. So the question becomes, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is the LGBT movement doing? What is everybody doing? So let's just go a little bit further, and we're going to just so we understand the law, just so we understand some of the undergirdings. And then we're going to go from this NBC article to another article, which gives a little historical context for what we're kind of talking about. Now, remember, sex wasn't supposed to be in there. Women weren't supposed to be in there. So, except for black women, because black women were a part of a race, and the race would be protected, meaning that black women would have an advantage in terms of protections over white women, which only makes sense. But listen to this. Gender protections were added in an attempt to kill the bill before it was passed by Representative Howard Smith, Democrat of Virginia. Now, we're talking about, you might want to think a little bit about Dixiecrat. Remember that. Ain't the same. Suggested a one-word addition to the law prohibiting employment discrimination, sex. Luckily, Smith's efforts backfired, and the Civil Rights Act was more robust than he or others ever intended. The outcome of the Supreme Court case will depend on whether a majority of the court interprets the word sex to mean only if you are born male or female, or to include the broader concepts of gender identity and sexual orientation. But let's just go back here for 1 second before we go there. The word sex was put in to kill the bill. So let me tell you what that tells you in terms of what you need to know. It tells you that women didn't fight for that. They got that. What you have as a woman in terms of a white woman, I'm not talking about black women right now. What you have as a white woman in terms of those protections, you owe all to ADOS and your own conniving. And we're going to get to that in a moment. Because you connived your way into that bill. And you have protections now that other people are shoehorning, but you have protections now that you didn't fight for. See, that's part of the problem that we have now. See, if you get protections first, it's ADOS. So ADOS gets protections first. So that means we have a long time to operate within those protections while other people are still fighting for them. That means we're rising up this hierarchy. You over there still fighting. Good luck to you. We over here. Now, here's the thing. You white women still would have been better off because your husbands got all the money. Your husbands, your brothers, your uncles, your cousins, and everything. You got to figure all this stuff out in your family. Because you navigate this as if white men aren't your family. Well, we have to fight for our right. These are your family. These is all your husbands, your daddies, and all this. What's going on with your family? We don't have that family. We have ADOS family. We don't have your family, so we can't navigate inter-family like that. And it's not like coming from a slave or a slave master. I mean, slaves and slave masters raping and now we don't. That's not the same thing. It's like you sleep next to this man every night. You can't convince him of nothing. Like this is your brother. You grew up with him. You can't convince. That's your plight. That's not our plight. But you shoehorned yourself into something that wasn't supposed to be meant for you. It was actually meant to kill the bill. So understand, fam. As we go into this, what I want you to understand are all the ways in which, as we talk about this Supreme Court case, because the whole thing hinges on sex, right? In terms of what sex means, in terms of how sex was added to it. That's that Title VII thing. Sex was added to it, right? So you see how sex was added to it. So a shoehorn is leading to a shoehorn. So sex was added into there. That wasn't supposed to be that way. And then now everybody's trying to make sex mean something else instead of going through Congress. See, why shouldn't you have to do what we had to do? We had to have the Civil Rights Act. We had to go and had to have LBJ and all these people in Congress. I'm going to get into a little bit of the weeds of that too to show you everything that we had to kind of go through to get a bill passed. And you're just going to try to shoehorn yourself and get it out of the Supreme Court. No, go do what we did. You got to go do what we did. You can't just shoehorn on top of shoehorn on top of shoehorn. Go do what we did. We showed you how to do it. You just can't say, well, this is me. No, that wasn't the thought. There was no gender identity conversation. When this law was written, you have to go do your work. You can't keep using us as a doormat to all kinds of equality, as a doormat to American life. It's kind of amazing to me, actually, that you can have any kind of LGBT person. It could be a white, a fluid person, and all of a sudden, your whole life can be built on anti-blackness. But all of a sudden, you get to piggyback onto blackness to get what you want in the Supreme Court and shoehorn your way into this. And it's amazing how you all say, well, we're all alike. We're all suffering. We're all minorities. I haven't seen, we have a Supreme Court case coming up, too, with our Civil Rights Act in terms of Byron Allen, in terms of what it goes back to, in terms of a Reconstruction era law. I don't see none of y'all showing up for me, though. I really don't see anybody showing up for that Civil Rights Act because it doesn't. I don't even know what the expectation is of me. And I'm going to just say, I just want to say, too, to some, the LGBT ADOS family. It's time to stop being mascots for the LGBT movement. It's time to come home. You can't be a mascot no more. You can't just run around here and throw a rainbow around your neck. And yes, we're all in this together and we have right. You can't do it that way. No. Come home. We accept you home. Everything's fine. You got to come home. Because the thing that hurts you, me, everybody else the most is race. This whole race is race. Nobody, listen. I saw a case and somebody said, what was the case? I can't remember the case. And the woman said, I said something at work and I did a bunch of stuff at work and I outed myself at work. I'm not saying that you don't get to take that to Congress and take that to your Congress member. What I'm saying is that that struggle is not the ADOS struggle. You don't get to shoehorn that struggle and try to make it the same. There's this whole kind of sameness going on. And when you try to challenge the kind of the sameness, everybody says, well, I'm not going to do the Olympics, the oppression Olympics. No, what you're going to say is that you're not going to distinguish between groups. You kind of chose to go to work and do that. I'm not saying whether or not you should or whatever. I'm not getting into that. I'm saying that like that in terms of, that is not the same in terms of being an ADOS and being tethered to the bottom. You're living a different life. Your struggle is a very different struggle. And you need to take your struggle to Congress. You don't need to shoehorn your way into this very specific struggle that goes back, that goes all the way from 1619 to here we are today. This is our thing. This is not the same thing. You got to do the work. And let me take you to another article really quick so we can discuss this one. Because this it kind of goes into the weeds a little bit. So kind of just bear with it. But it goes into the weeds in a very good way to kind of give you an idea of everything ADOS, like when you talk about Martin Luther King, when you talk about, I know the NAACP even back in this day had its problems. But you see how they kind of understood that a con was being played, and you see how there was so many different things going on, so many moving parts. So let's just go to what the Republicans of the day tried to do. It says some Republicans in Congress therefore decided to outflank the administration. Now understand, we're talking about LBJ. You remember JFK assassination, comes in, makes that his mission to pass a Civil Rights Act to kind of do that. And there's a lot of moving pieces. Some Republicans in Congress therefore decided to outflank the administration by proposing maximalist civil rights legislation of their own. They were playing with House money. They didn't need their bills to pass. They only needed African Americans to see that it was Democrats who diluted or killed the bills. As a result, by the middle of June 1963, there were more than 100 civil rights bills before the House of Representatives, many of them sponsored by Republicans. Two Republicans were key players in keeping the administration's bill from being butchered in the legislative process. One was McCulloch, the ranking minority member of the Judiciary Committee and a conservative lawmaker. Purdom, that's the person who wrote the book about this. I'm going to make it not too fat, not too go into it too much. Points out that he supported school prayer and gun rights, opposed foreign aid and federal involvement in education. African Americans constituted less than 3% of the electorate in his district, but he had been a consistent supporter of civil rights. McCulloch had no respect for the strategy, same thing. I don't know why people like to use words. And he offered the Justice Department a deal. If the Democrats presented the strongest bill they could hope to see passed and resisted attempts to load it up with trade bait, he would support the legislation and keep Republicans who followed his lead in line. And this is what we talk about the Southerners and the Dixiecrats, and it's going to take us into this. It wasn't just that the Southerners could be counted on to oppose the bill in its entirety, which they did. It was also that key committees were chaired by Southerners, providing them with many opportunities to delay or sabotage legislation. The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, James Eastland of Mississippi, a man who called the bill a complete blueprint for a totalitarian state. In the House, the major player was the Democratic chairman of the Rules and Chairman Committee, for the Rules Committee, Howard Smith of Virginia, a legendary wizard of procedure. The House substitute for the Dixie filibuster, said the Times, is Howard Smith. Now, Howard Smith is going to become very important. Very, very, very important in what we're talking about here. The Southerners' plan was to delay a vote in the hope that violent protests would lead to white backlash. So they're gonna just delay and delay and delay in hopes of the white backlash, because you can always count on a white backlash in this country. I know America. Smith promised to drag out the hearings on the bill, but in January 1964, he was threatened with a discharge petition, a measure rarely used to bring legislation out of committee against the wishes of the chairman into releasing it for debate. It was during that debate that he introduced, on February 8, 1964, the Sex Amendment. The amendment was one word addition, sex, to Title VII of the bill, which prohibited employers from discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, or national origin. Opponents of Smith's amendment, led by Emanuel Seller of Brooklyn, the 75-year-old chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and the bill's floor leader, regarded it as either a prank intended to expose the limits of liberal egalitarianism or a poison pill that would make the bill more difficult to pass in the House. But before I go on, fam, it's going to be more than that. That's part of it. So on the one hand, it's a poison pill, right? On the one hand, okay, you want to do all of that, I'm going to do this too. I'm going to throw everything at. And there was a passage where he kind of introduced it with kind of a joke. Right? Kind of jocular. He was kind of jocular in the way he presented it, for lack of a better word. So he didn't intend for this to pass, but here's the kicker. There were some people who did want it to pass. You know who wanted it to pass? There were some little wealthy white women who had been pushing this. A lot of stuff going on. But they hadn't been, understand when the feminist movement happened and the burning of the bras and all that, and understand when Susan B. Anthony was around. Like these are different eras. While you're in there, fam, somebody go and look up the date of birth, date of death of Susan B. Anthony, because people like to talk about these things as if they happened in the same time. So tell me when Susan B. Anthony was born and when she died, because people will talk about this like she was around when the Civil Rights Act, child. So we got to think about that and think about, there was nothing. Y'all had no movement. This was a civil rights movement. Y'all weren't even at the March on Washington for the most part. Some of y'all were, but for the most part, white women, y'all were not there fighting for y'all rights alongside us, and you really never have. So if you weren't fighting for your rights at the same time or in the same movement with ADOS, how in the world did you end up in the Civil Rights Act? How did you do it? You was a magical white woman. So let's just go to the next part. You got to remember who this is, because we're going to come back to it. The National Woman's Party. That's going to be very important in a little while. The National Woman's Party is going to be very important. So she died in 1906? 1906. That's when Susan B. Anthony died. Now put a pin in it. So that means that she wasn't doing no fighting nowhere near the Civil Rights Act. Okay? Understand, she's been gone, but I'm gonna bring her up in a second, because it's gonna be very important, because the way she thought is the same way a lot of them thought, and it continued. They never saw themselves as like, we're all minorities. I don't know why we're thinking that now, but they never thought that. We're gonna come back to it, put another pin in it. So here we go. This is not the first time they'd offered this sex amendment to kill what we were trying to do as ADOS. Opponents of civil rights legislation had offered the sex amendment before. In 1950, Congress debated the resurrection of the Fair Employment Practices Committee, which had been created by Roosevelt to ban discrimination by government contractors, but which, after the war, under the leadership of Smith and Richard Russell of Georgia, Congress had shut down. A Florida Congressman, Dwight Rogers, proposed adding sex to the list of categories to be protected. The House adopted the amendment and the bill died in the Senate. So this is not the first time. This is not the first time that this has been used the sex amendment has been used, but understand who was onto it. African American groups were onto the NWP's game. When civil rights legislation was before Congress in 1956, for example. Now this is when they say Paul, they're referring to an NW National Woman's what was that? The National Woman's Party. They're referring to a member of that party. Okay, that's who they're referring to with those names and whatever. And it says African American groups were on to the NWP's game when civil rights legislation was before Congress in 1956. For example, Paul persuaded a California congressman named Gordon McDonough to introduce a sex amendment. So they've been trying to piggyback. That person's from the National Woman's whatever. The National Woman's Party. They've been trying to piggyback. The piggyback ain't nothing new. The NAACP got wind of it, and its chief Washington lobbyist, Clarence Mitchell, called McDonough's wife to warn her. She took him to mean that if the congressman didn't withdraw his amendment, the NAACP would see to it that he did not win re-election. McDonough stuck with the amendment. Among those who opposed the efforts of Paul, Smith, and Griffiths, these are all the National Women's Party, the white women. These is when you see those names, White Women's Party, National Women's Party, were leaders of the civil rights movement themselves. They thought that the women's rights advocates were trying to piggyback on the movement for rights for African Americans, and that the load would kill the piggy. They turned out to be wrong about the second thing, but they were completely right about the first. It didn't kill the Civil Rights Act, adding sex in there, but it was a piggyback. We've been doing all the work. We've been doing all the work and ain't been getting none of the fruit. See, what I'm saying, and what those civil rights leaders understood is that in life, in our lives, in ADOS life, there is a hierarchy. If you're ADOS, the first thing that comes in that hierarchy, I don't care whether you're a woman, whether you're LGBT, I don't care whether you're a small person, the first thing that comes in that hierarchy is I'm ADOS. Because that is the most consequential thing in your life. That is the thing that tethers you to the bottom. There are all kinds of gay white, lesbian white. We just saw Ellen, she made like $86 million last year. No. They're all gay millionaires and multimillionaires, right? You are not me. I'm not you. So this whole thing where we have this sameness in terms of oppression, in terms of the people who are oppressed, that cannot exist. And those civil rights leaders understood at that moment that these white women are trying to piggyback on our movement. That they are trying to not do the work and move on our work. They understood that. And here's what they believe. The civil rights activists of that time, here's what they believed about how this should play out. The view of African Americans in these disputes was that blacks came first. Blacks came first. Isn't that an idea? They argued that the privileges of being white, minus the disadvantages of being a woman, left white women far better off than black Americans. Shocker. The view of the women was that a law protecting all African Americans from discrimination as a class would leave one group legally unprotected: white women. Well, you should talk to your husband or daddy. I don't know. Why are you talking to me? But let me just ask a question while we're having this conversation. While we're having this conversation, if wealth is held in white families and not white gender, for example, if you're a heterosexual white man, you're probably going to, especially back then, and it, you know, it's, and even now, but not to the same extent, you're going to marry another heterosexual white woman. So how can then you make the argument that we're the same when wealth is held in families and you're going to be with the group that has the wealth, because that's white men, and that is your husband. That is your brother. That is, so if wealth is held in family, I don't even understand how you really made that argument that of sameness when we come from slaves. I don't even understand how you made that argument then in terms of what we've been through, that your rights would not be protected. It seems to me that there was a pull, that there was a fight within family about who would control the purse strings. Purse strings was in the family, but that means that you have a purse. So you have a fight inter-family about, they just want me to stay at home. Well, you're not staying at home starving. Yeah, that's true, but you gotta fight within your family that you gotta work out. You have a fight within your group, there's a group of white people with wealth, and it's white men and white women. You have an inter-family fight. How? I don't understand how we decided to make that, or how we construed that to be any kind of similarity to who we are as ADOS, and what we fight for is ADOS, and what we have to deal with is ADOS, from slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration. You know, we looked at the data last week about how many of you all voted for Trump. And then you want to come in here and say, we got to get him out of here. Y'all got to help me. You put him in there. You figure your stuff out. Don't keep looking for me to come and, don't keep looking for ADOS to come in here and clean it up. Oh yeah, you right. We got to come in here and do the right thing because y'all made a mess last time. Now ADOS didn't vote for Trump. We voted for like, what was it, like 3-4%? It was small. We overwhelmingly have voted for Democrats in the modern era. Right? You voted for Trump. Figure your stuff out. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you anything, especially the way y'all have tried. Listen, white women, your whole life, the rights that you have right now, because you shoehorned into something, that we fought and died for, you owe us everything. I owe you nothing. I don't have to stand with you, and I don't have to stand with the group I don't have to stand with this LGBT movement that's trying to shoehorn into this. No, y'all got to fight y'all own fight. You got to go to Congress and you got to convince your Congress people in the era of Trump that this has to happen. It's going to be a lot of work. We did it. You got to figure your life out. There's no debt. We don't owe a debt. We're owed a debt, but we don't owe a debt. And I don't see none of y'all running around talking about reparations now. I don't see none of y'all running around saying that reparations is your number one thing. That your number one topic. You just, all you want to talk. I'm not going to be comfortable until ADOS have. I don't hear none of y'all saying that. So I owe you nothing. And you should go to Congress anyway. But listen, hands off. I wish you all the best. But you're not putting us first. 400 years of this. And you're not putting us first. And you're not prioritizing our needs. I don't know what's wrong with you. And let me just show you something. You know, I want to show you, let me put it in context. I want to put it in context because I think we have to understand what this means. We are a group with political capital. Groups have political capital. That's the thing. We have the most political capital probably of any group. I don't know of any group that has more political capital than we have and have had. But what happens if everybody gets to say they're black? Because if you have Vargas talking to Michelle Alexander about how basically he's black when he ain't, your life hasn't been that life, and you just lying on stage, and people listen to you lie on stage, and you evoke James Baldwin as if you lived his life, as if you grew up. No, you grew up in a family that accessed whiteness that was based on anti-blackness. But what that means is that you water down and dilute our justice claim. We don't have a justice claim after a while because everybody's using it. And we're not bold enough. We're not courageous enough. We're not full-throated enough to say, absolutely not. You don't get to use us as the doormat into Americanness and American rights. And understand that what he was advocating right there was like citizenship shouldn't be a thing. And I want to make this clear to everybody. You can be opposed to the tooth, and you should be. Given our history, you should be absolutely in opposition to white supremacy on every level. But being opposed to white supremacy is not synonymous with being opposed to citizenship. Anybody who tells you that they don't believe in citizenship is somebody telling you they don't believe in your justice claim, and they don't believe in what you did in this country to become a citizen, and they don't believe in reparations. Just note it off top. If somebody said they don't believe in citizenship, that person is not eye to eye with you in terms of politics. Just know that. You don't believe in citizenship? Well, migration is something that's gonna, and people are human. That's a human right to migrate to. No. My people fought in this country and died in this country to be full citizens. And they didn't die to get to a moment where you tell them that citizenship is no longer a thing. And by what right do you even have to say it? By what right do you even have to evoke my ancestors? Evoke your own. Build it. And because you have there's some immigrants' rights people who've done some work. You can evoke them. Don't keep getting on stage talking about James Baldwin. That is not your thing that is not your right. Don't you mentioned his name like 5 times during that scene. You are not, oh, well, Yvette, he just likes Baldwin. He's a fan. No, he's not a fan. He's a user. You want to co-opt everything. You want this movement to be your movement. You're lazy. You don't want to build your own thing. You don't want to do your own thing. So you just want to be lazy and say, I'm just going to slick my way. I'm going to slick my way into what ADOS has done in this country. I'm not going to do my own thing. But you're going to have to build your own movement. You can't keep slicking your way into ours. See, because we need our own movement to do what we need to do. We got our own business to handle. We can't handle your business. And we're not going to handle your business because I don't see you handling my business. So you're going to have to go your own way. You ain't over here. You ain't over here helping me do nothing. So I want you to hear what Frederick Douglass had some words. He had some words for white women who said, well, it's all the same. We're all suffering and we should get the vote. We should get the vote first. Now, this is way back when with Susan B. Anthony. We're going to just reverse and just show you how a lot of things haven't changed. It went from all the way from then to the Civil Rights Act. So we're going all the way back. We're going all the way back just to show you that there's a line. I can draw a line to it. Because actually when Susan B. Anthony died, and I'm going to draw a line back to her, and we can pull that line all the way back up to how they shoehorn their way into something that was meant for us. Okay? So let me just listen to what Douglass said. And after that, we're going to listen to like Susan B. Anthony's response to Douglass. Now remember that Susan B. Anthony, when we thought Hillary Clinton was going to be president, everybody was laying flowers at Susan B. Anthony's grave. Same Susan B. Anthony. I'm going to read Douglass's quote first, and we're going to get to Susan B. Anthony. When women, because they are women, this is Frederick Douglass. He's talking to white women. When women, because they are women, are hunted down through the cities of New York and New Orleans, when they are dragged from their houses and hung up on lampposts, when their children are torn from their arms and their brains dashed out upon the pavement, when they are objects of insult and outrage at every turn, when they are in danger of having their homes burnt down over their heads, when their children are not allowed to enter schools, then they will have an urgency to obtain the ballot equal to our own. He basically said, listen, white women, because he wasn't talking about black women, because black women got lynched and a whole bunch of slew of other stuff. He was talking to white women specifically. He was saying, when the stuff that happens to us happens to you, when you live like we live, when you have the consequence that we have, when that is your life, then we can have a conversation. Until then, we don't need to talk. Don't talk to me about who gets what first. No. We're not the same. It's not the same. I don't know what people get this idea of sameness. Well, that's a con. It's always been a con. How do we not know? How do you not know? What are we doing? Is everybody okay? I don't know. I really don't understand, like, honestly, how we got so lost. And we run around here talking about rights for everybody. Ain't nobody saying that. Ain't nobody saying that about us. Ain't nobody saying we just gotta have. Ain't nobody saying we just gotta include black. We just gotta include ADOS people. That's what has to happen. Who said that? Huh? I'm just trying to figure it out. So I want to hold on one second. Let me see if I can figure something out real quick. I really don't understand how we got here. I don't understand what leadership we had that told us that, like, we were the same as everybody else and we had to fight for everybody else, and that was going to be the way to liberation. Well, you just got to fight for people. Let me show you something real quick. They seem to be doing all right to me. Front office became an outlier. Listen, front office 1.5. This is the NFL. Like, what are y'all talking about? All white women. These white women run the NFL team. A team of black men is run by white women. This is like an NFL team. So a team. So. I don't understand. Oh, hold on. I got it. Hold on a second. Let me show you a good thing. So a team of, so how do we not understand what this means? They run the Philadelphia Eagles. So the black men get out there and play the ball and they run it. That's them. Everybody the same? Where does this idea of sameness come from? Who told you that? These white women who are married to white men are running the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I just want to bring it home. Let's just talk about it. But they're entitled to the same protections and everything else. And we're all minorities. And, oh. And see, you have to understand too. You want to talk about something else. These white women, why in the world are they getting minority grants and all that stuff? They have access through their husbands. So they get extra access through affirmative action and through diversity grants. This is a con. The first con was you shoehorning yourself into that. You never should have been there. And so now we got this whole thing going on. Now, I just want to, this is a perfect pivot to what Susan B. Anthony said. You heard Frederick Douglass said, when y'all white women get lynched like us and everything, you can talk about it. And Susan B. Anthony had something to say about it. She had a word. She had something to say. She said the following. If you will not give the whole loaf of suffrage to the entire people, give it to the most intelligent first. If intelligence, justice, and morality are to have precedence in the government, let the question of woman be brought up first, and that of the Negro last. That of the Negro last. She said, y'all not intelligent people. Y'all are stupid. Y'all are stupid. So she called us stupid, basically, and said the women need to have it first. These people that let intelligence rule. And so now we're in a day where we did get affirmative action, and then they shoehorn their way into that. You know, in terms of like the voting right, we talking about because of the Civil Rights Act we just talked about. So you have everything. So because it says that, you have affirmative action, everything. So that means you having everything means we have nothing because you don't need it. It's not for you. It should never have been for you. So people say, well, ADOS, why haven't y'all done better under affirmative action? Because it mostly benefits white women. What you mean? Then everybody got to shoehorn their way into there. People who just got here last week got to shoehorn their way into affirmative action. How? White women and everybody not a white man. There's no specificity. And what kind of leaders did we have to set it up to where we don't have specificity in this? So there is no affirmative action anymore. Like that, it doesn't exist. How does it exist in any real and meaningful way? It doesn't. It's just for everybody. It just gets spread. It's just a pot that gets spread around. We just sit up for this con. And they get to take it. See, the thing is, when you talk about affirmative action in that way, and you look at wealth in America and opportunity and upward mobility, the person who can benefit it is that white woman for the most. So she can take it and plug it into her white husband and they can take off. So that means when you have it, it don't really matter. And even in terms of social exchange, why wouldn't I give it to a white woman instead of you? It doesn't. Affirmative action is not beneficial unless it's just us. It's just ADOS. Other than that, it's nothing. And so you have, this whole, we want to do rainbow coalitions and we're going to build with everybody. I understand. It don't work because you build with everybody and what you end up doing is giving everything away. So you try to build this coalition. I'm going to coalesce with the white women. I'm going to coalesce with the browns and the blacks and I'm going to coalesce with everybody, Eastern European. You just end up giving away everything that we have. A coalition that doesn't benefit us, doesn't give anything to us. The coalition should be supporting us. You end up just giving all of the stuff that the hard-earned stuff that we've won, you just end up giving it away. Whether or not you intended to or not, I can't deal with that. But you end up giving it all away at the expense of your people. So that you can have a coalition. But having a coalition to what end? So let me finish this up. After Susan B. Anthony called us stupid. So, y'all remember the National Women's Party. They were the ones, they actually, what this article says is that they pushed. It wasn't just what happened in Congress. They actually pushed for sex to be included. But here's the kicker we all knew. By 1963, the NWP, National Women's Party, was an organization of mostly wealthy white women. Many of them elderly veterans of the suffrage movement. The chair, Emma Guffey Miller, was 89. The Civil Rights Bill presented it with a huge target of opportunity. Paul called on remember that's another NWP leader, on two NWP members from Virginia, Nina Avery and Butler Franklin, to begin lobbying. Both wrote Smith. They wrote Smith. Remember, Smith was the one who offered the amendment that got it included. They wrote Smith in December 1963 asking him to add sex to the bill. Wealthy white women did that. Now remember, Avery was in it, but here's something that Avery said, though. Here's what Avery said. In January, Avery wrote to another Virginia Congressman, J. Vaughn Gary. She explained that she disliked the bill itself, though, and hoped it would not pass anytime soon. Thank God for the members of Congress who are from the South, and for those members from the East, Northwest who will use their brains and energies to prevent a mongrel race in the United States, and who will fight for the rights of white citizens in order that discriminations against them may be stopped. A mongrel race. This is your National Women's Party, right? Come on. That's your girl. That's your girl right there, Susan B. Anthony. Everybody's putting flags on her grave when they thought Hillary Clinton was going to be president. She said it should be based on intelligence. I don't know how she thought she was more intelligent than Frederick Douglass. But at least the thing that you can say is at least, regardless of what we say about old civil rights movements and old civil rights leaders, at least they understood that white women were running a con. Like, they got it. Like, they're running a con. They're just trying to piggyback on something that we built. And everybody's piggybacking. And we just sitting around not saying nothing. Not saying nothing. We marched, got beat. Right? Did all that stuff. Blood, sweat, tears. And you just get to go and sign your name in there. Hope ain't nobody looking. I'm going to just put this right here. You all right? I'm just going to put this right here in the corner. As if it was supposed to be a poison pill. See, the thing is, one of the things that we have to do, one of the things that we have to really do, there's only one way that anybody knows whether or not you can fight. You got to stand on your square and fight by yourself. All these groups, I'm not dealing with who's right or who's what or not you should have, whatever. But you got to go fight on that square by yourself. Go fight. Go stand on that square and fight. Put your hands up and fight. Protect your face. Protect your head. You're going to have to fight. And then we'll see if you can fight. You get beat up, you got to just figure it out and come back again. Just wipe yourself off. Wipe yourself clean. And come back again. But you got to stand on your square and fight. You just can't keep shoehorning your way into like something that we won a long time ago. Like, oh, that was my uncle. He fought for... No, I ain't nobody. We ain't your uncle. We ain't nothing for you. No. We can't do that. You can't co-opt. And one thing you can't do, you can't, I'm about to go to break, but I want to say one thing. You cannot co-opt our story as an excuse for why you won't write your own. Let me say that again. You cannot co-opt our story as an excuse for why you won't write your own. There are a lot of groups in this country that need to write their own story. You don't keep talking about, I don't want to hear Vargas talk about Maya Angelou no more. Shut up. Your community was built on anti-blackness. You don't get to talk about that. You get to build your own story. So it's time for you to get to work. It's not time for you to talk about a story that doesn't belong to you. Handle your business. And no, your business is not my business. I don't see you. I don't see none of that. You need to handle your business. Write your story. Don't cloak yourself in an ADOS story that doesn't belong to you, because that's political capital. And we need that political capital for ourselves, for what we have to do. You can't keep stealing. There's a limitation. And one of the things that we see about the Civil Rights Act, if we had excluded women, we would have had a bill that was specificity where we would have benefited the most. There's an opportunity when you do that for hierarchy, for you to move up in hierarchy, because it didn't benefit everybody. It's benefiting just this group. And we were robbed of that by these little slick rich women. These little slick rich white women who robbed us of the ability to do that. So all I'm saying is, the one thing that we have to understand is who everybody else is and who we are. We're ADOS, is ADOS first. That don't mean we're not everything else. Don't mean we don't have ADOS women, ADOS LGBT, ADOS everything. But in terms of our primary concern, the thing that is most consequential to our life, it is our ADOSness. And that's what we ride on. Period. So I'm going to go to the phones. I don't want to talk too long because I had problems and we got in here late. I know I get in here late, but that was even a little late for me. So I'm going to give me a couple minutes up. Oh, I'm still congested. Give me a couple of minutes to set up the phones, and then we'll be back, fam. going on, family? What is going on? We are going to go to the phones. Listen, and I don't have nothing against nobody. Let's just get obviously listen. But how many of y'all remember that gospel song, "Hold Your Mule"? Everybody's just gonna have to hold that mule. Like, hold your own mule. Don't let your mule running over here, all running all roughshod over everything. Anyway, I'm going to the phones. Really, let me check one thing real quick. Okay, still can't tell. I am going to 646. 646. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Hello? You there, 646? 646, you're on the line. Are you there? Oh, we're gonna have to drop you. Anyway, could be anything because we've had so many problems tonight. 678, are you there?
Hey, Yvette, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about with you?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm so glad you up here for class for another political education class. I'm enjoying it once again. I just wanted a quick comment, just to bring receipts for what you're talking about.
Okay.
I don't know if y'all remember, I think it was like in the early 90s when the black social workers were fighting. There were so many, black children in the foster system, okay. And the LGBT community wanted to adopt them, and they were trying to, maintain and keep, give the children to, ADOS families and etc.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember that, but okay.
They were able to. Yeah, but I recall that happening in New York.
Okay.
And they really fought hard and were able to actually begin to adopt. The LGBT community was able to begin to adopt black children, and they did that prior to the whole thing about marriage and gay marriage, etc. And that to me just highlights the long game. One of the problems with us being on the bottom or having this accrued disadvantage is that the dominant society, they sit on top and they can play the long game and see things. That's when you highlighted about the Civil Rights Act and them crowbarring different groups in. That's essentially what they're doing. They're able to play the long game, and depending on which direction we go, they're there to try to checkmate any moves that we make. So one last thing I really noticed. I remember when I was in college, I was at HBCU, and our group was invited to assist some ADOS students out in Chapel Hill that they were being put upon. They were having racist events going on, and they were protesting. They took over the student union, and it was a very small group of people. So when we got there, we walk in, and it's primarily white people. But what I noticed was many of them were from the LGBT community. I think it was like GLAD or some. I forget the name of it. I forget what their acronym standed for, but they were there in support. But what was interesting was they were the ones who were literally leading the conversation. Like like the black students were they were outnumbered, so they were able to kind of back them up, but they were essentially pushing their agenda. Suffice it to say, we kind of fell back because that wasn't something that we wanted to be involved in. We wanted to assist the students, but they were unwilling to sever their ties with that group. So I want us to definitely make sure that we are looking always at the long game that's being played on us, and we also participate in thinking about the long game and strategies so that we don't get caught out there. Because if they have the money and they have the positions, they can put themselves in places that we can't. So. But
also, caller, let me just say that. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you, fam. And I appreciate it, fam. And something else I wanted to say, and I'll say this. I'll let you go, fam, so I can say this off air.
Thank
you. And I appreciate your call. I don't think we understand how long this game has been going on. Like, it's not just LGBT. It goes from all the way to the women, and like everybody understood that there was a con. Like, it just seems to me like when I read what the civil rights leaders said at that time, they understood what these white women were up to. And like, for us, it's almost as if we've lost sight of that. This is a long game. Like, this is a really long game that's just still being played. It's not a new game. It's like a really long game that's still being played. And people are like, well, what about solidarity? Solidarity is an exchange. I don't see you giving me nothing. I see you taking and extracting from my community. And that is really a problem. So I'm going to go to the next call. Let me see who the next call is going to be. I am going to 770. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey.
Yeah, okay, so I'm calling because, I just wanted to say, with all of this going on, we got to think about that these same women, were the ones who had a lot of slaves, and they were marrying, into these, different women so that they can marry into their wealth. And, it was a lot of conversations that were held. I used to read some things, that Frederick Douglass spoke about, and he was talking about some of the violence that the women would have in particular. So, I think it's very interesting that you brought that up, as far as him speaking on that point, and some of the things that we suffer compared to them. And I just think that, it's a good point. We have to practice exclusivity and stop, being so quick to, run to everybody. Like y'all were talking about that guy Black not too long ago, and about how, everybody's running to him and telling him everything. We have to practice that exclusivity on, several different levels.
Well, let me just make sure everybody understands what you're saying, caller. I was talking about DJ Vlad or whatever, right? And he says some of the most ignorant stuff, and he's descended from immigrants. I don't know whether but I think it's Ukraine. I'm not sure, but he said some ignorant stuff about reparations education, and it didn't make any sense, and we all know why. But I blamed what the caller is talking about. I blame black celebrities. Because y'all always run to him. He doesn't even ask intelligent questions. He doesn't even sound like an intelligent-minded person. He just sounds like these Negroes are going to be here. Throw me something together to ask them. And it just, there are a lot of places. We have a lot of black DJs and people who are in the black celebrity music community, hip-hop. Like, why is it that y'all keep running to this guy to do interviews? It don't make no sense because he doesn't really have a backdrop. He's not creative. He's not anything except white, and y'all just run to him and make him a bunch of YouTube money. So I know he's a former DJ, but y'all just like, he shouldn't have a job. Like, he has a job because all these black celebrities decide they're going to run to him every time they got something to say. Why? Why not? That's an area where you can't just, somebody who's been a DJ and has the relationships just sets up a camera. He's not even charismatic. He's always sounding like his nose is stuffed up. It's just a ridiculous thing that we allow this man to, we elevate him. That's a problem. But I'm going to let you go ahead, Carl. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah, without us practicing that type of exclusivity, that just allows everybody to kind of climb up over us and climb, on our back. So, we have to be able to kind of stop that conversation in its tracks and let them know, I used to watch some old clips, and, I saw one with Muhammad Ali, and he was letting a woman know about, some of the things that we're going through and how, it's about us. We're focusing on us. The conversation is about us, so we have to be able to do that, and just kind of stop it in its tracks. It's nothing wrong with doing that. We're so politically correct nowadays that we don't speak up. So that's just all I wanted to say.
No, thank you, Carl.
I hope y'all. Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be a part of the family. Y'all take care.
No, thank you too. Thank you too, fam. I appreciate it. And I just want to say this. It's you're not even you did the DJ thing, but you're not anchored in black life. Like, in terms of, you don't have ancestors who, were sharecroppers and did all this stuff and came from here. So you don't know what it is. And so people say, well, why can't he was a DJ? Yeah, it's bigger than that. He's talking politics. It's bigger than that. And he's not even the fact that y'all go talk to him, he's not even a creative person. He said, well, what about this? It sounds like sometimes, sounds like Fed stuff sometimes, but whatever. Y'all so black celebrities have that happen. You could go anywhere. Black celebrities could build somebody to do that. To just be the person they go to. They don't have to go to him. Why do you go to DJ Vlad? For what? All right, I'm going to 310. What's going on? Oh, there it comes.
What up, y'all? This Tone Talks.
What's up,
I just want to hit a couple of things. The first thing is one thing that we learned earlier this year on Yvette's channel was about widowocracies and how so much of the antebellum South was about white women inheriting slaves. Well, if we know that's the fact, I kind of like look at even the context of the show, because you kind of have to say it in a way where you're married to white men. Do they even need to be married to white men, or do they just have a long history of actually being oppressive? And if that's the case, you run into this dynamic where, in an effort to expand the pie, because ADOS people are so wealthy in America due to slavery and everything else, everybody gave away not just the cart, they just decided they were going to not give us politics in a backwards way. So what do I mean? We're going to pass bills, but everybody's going to be a beneficiary of it. So as a result, it's not a bill at all. And so everybody says we got to form coalitions. That's the only way it makes sense. Class-based. But then when you understand that forgiving student loans will expand the racial wealth gap, when you look at the data, what are you talking about? Well, everybody says that, white women should be included in this. But when you understand it, not just through the lens, of course, that they're married to white men, but that there was widowocracy. So they're just beneficiaries of long-standing wealth in America. It makes literally no sense. No different than this black immigrant thing where Cynthia Erivo still has not answered whether her family is Diallo, whether they traded slaves. And I don't see ADOS has been angered by it. But whether it be Cynthia Erivo, the lady on CBS with Abiola show, I don't see black America, particularly like in Cobra and these black Pan-Africans, really saying nothing at all. It's almost like they're unable to see how this destroys everything about your identity. And I'm using it in context of this discussion because ultimately what you see is this cyclical reality where nobody really wanted to do any politics for black people. So they kind of did this version of politics that really didn't affect black people, but sat on top of, ADOS black people, but sat on top of history of black ADOS people being lynched, killed, and everything else. And that brings me to my latter point. I kind of wanted to just hit this because it's important to say it. Part of the reason that this only exists, both in the gay space, gay trans space, and then also in the space of black women, is that I've told y'all the numbers that white folks have 90% of the wealth. Both of these groups have far too many people that are basically running from ADOS men because we don't have any wealth. To the friendships, the intimate spaces, to everything else that you benefit from being connected to them. So you redefine yourself away from black men and black struggle as a result, and you redefine yourself as a unique kind of like separate entity of either black women or black gay men, separate and apart from ADOS men. And it's just running, but you don't frame it that way. So you get your own town hall where you can stand up and talk about something that's going to benefit you, but it don't create no black community. You know what I'm saying, Yvette?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it's trying to, everybody's escape hatching. There's an escape hatch for everything.
Look at basically, like, you can look at anchors on TV shows or writers this mostly writer for Black America, black men that are heterosexual are shut out. It's just what I'm seeing. And the way it got shut out is that they reoriented themselves as this uniquely different and mostly extra disenfranchised group, but none of it holds in terms of data. It makes no sense what has went on. And part of what you see is not just the fact that you end up with black women as the anchors of the shows or black gay men. That in and of itself is not the problem. You end up with people that are most likely to try to reassociate themselves away from the core anger and frustration of ADOSness as their driving motivation, but reorient themselves around an intersectionalism that basically diverts from ADOS. And that's what you have going on over and over again. I just wanted to bring that point up.
No, you're right. You're right about it.
All right.
All right. It's almost as if, thank you, Tone, as always. You know what it's almost like? It's almost as if you got this highway, right? And so you got ADOS on this highway marching to justice, freedom, reparations. But there are always, you know how highways, there are all these off-ramps, right? So, like, there's an off-ramp for gay men. There's an off-ramp for mulattoes or mixed-race people who are anchored in whiteness. There's an off-ramp for lesbians. There's an off-ramp for... And people are just taking these off-ramps. And, like, that's not how you are a community. Where you are, you have to be like, no, this is the thing that's most consequential to me. I'm doing this thing. I'm doing this first. This is my main fight right here. Now, we get reparations, everything's done, then I can talk to you about all these other fights. But this is the thing that has me tethered to the bottom like this. And it had my mama and grandmama and granddaddy and grandpa and great-grandpa. It goes all the way back. This is my life's work. Gotta know that. So right now I am going to 346. 346, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Hello?
Hello?
346, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. How you doing, Yvette?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Man, good shout out to you, man. ADOS in the building, H-Town, Houston, Texas. Thank you for the conference. Thank you for everything you've been doing. You and Tone, I really appreciate y'all, man. I got a story.
Okay.
Dang, I had it in my head real quick. Dang, let me get it back real quick. Hold on. But yeah, ADOS. We're speaking about the LGBTQ community. I had an uncle who passed away in 1993.
Okay.
From AIDS.
Okay.
So the first time I encountered, this disease, this virus was in like 1991. My daddy sat me on the tailgate off our truck, and he said, "Hey, you don't got AIDS. You got HIV." I didn't know what the hell it was. I was born in 1985, so I'm like, shit, 11 years old when it popped off. And I didn't understand what was going on, and I'm like, well, okay, what does that mean? And he broke it down to me. He was like, okay, well, your uncle, he dabbled and dabbled in different things, whatever. He had sex with somebody, and it gave him this incurable disease. And you got to remember, back in the days, that was when, the movie with, Tom Hanks and Denzel was popping and all that good shit.
That Philadelphia movie that you're talking about.
I don't know too much about it. Philadelphia, yeah, Philadelphia. So, as he broke it down to me as a heterosexual young man, I didn't know what, sex was, having sex with men and other shit like that. I was like, excuse my language, I'm sorry. But at the same time, I was like, oh, what's going to happen? And I started watching TV and started, reading books and everything else. And I felt like I couldn't even eat off the same plate as this person. And this was my uncle. I loved him to death. And he passed away in 1993. And in 94, another close family member passed away from the same thing. And this whole LGBTQ movement wasn't popping back then. No. It's like they had no trust or nothing going for them back then. But now it's popping 20 years later. So all I want is for my people to look back at these times when, we had so much support for our people and then it diminished. But now, it's crazy because I just went to that store and now I'm thinking about, the past. Okay, I kind of lost my damn.
You okay?
But at the same time, I'm saying is the LGBTQ community needs to have that same energy that they didn't have back in the days that they do now. Because now it's totally different. Strange times.
No, now that the LGBT community has the legs under them. Like before, they got hit by Reagan, they got hit by everything. The unfortunately, and horrifically, a lot of people died from AIDS. And so now they really use that to like sustain activism on a very high level. I just, for me, one of the things is like, why can't we sustain activism at a very high level? Like, why do we get absorbed by all of the groups instead of like sustaining activism for ourselves on a high level? And I'm not saying that in opposition to, like, you can't shoehorn in my stuff. That you can't do that. But I'm saying, like, we have to like keep our eyes focused on the prize, and the prize for us isn't every other group. It isn't people of color. It isn't all minorities. Our prize is very specific. Our prize is really reparations. That's the prize. So I have a hard time understanding why we can't kind of like zoom in like that, because that's what everybody else does.
But they don't talk about that though no more. They don't talk about the 90s. They don't talk about the 80s. You remember the real world back in the days?
Yeah. When old boy died when old boy got AIDS on there, he died later. Yeah.
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 Exactly. They don't bring that up no more. On how that was actually killing off more of our population than anybody else. And then they don't bring up how when that shit was, I'm skipping names, I'm sorry, but when it was over there in the motherland, it was killing off so many people. They don't talk about that no more. It's all about equality here in America, because America is trying to be the progressive state, the liberal state. We understand we understand everybody needs the right to fight for their rights, as to be an individual for the LGBTQ, LMNOP. I don't mean no hatred when I said that, but I mean there's so many letters being added month to month. And the black man is constantly being attacked. The black woman is constantly being attacked. When back in the Gap, we were the majority of the people being infected by that disease and being wiped out. And
no, even that was a good study. That was a good study, fam, about gay men. That was a good study about gay men in Atlanta too. About that, yeah. That was a good study about gay black men in Atlanta. And how many have HIV, and so I think today is you still have a point, but I think that's not what they want to deal with. See, they moved past that, like I think white LGBT Americans kind of moved past that,
and then it became a predominantly white subject.
Yeah.
To change the subject, change the narrative.
Because hold on,
like
fam.
They do all the time. They always change the narrative.
But hold on 1 second, fam. What happened is the majority LGBT who, like, a lot of them got medicine, who had HIV, right, and prevention. So like they're not concerned no more about like the poor LGBT or the people who might not have. They don't care. They don't care about that. Like so now their whole thing is like, I want to be America. I want to be a part of American society, be able to buy a big house and use my wealth how I want to use it. It's not about like the downtrodden or nothing like that no more. They moved on from that. That's what I feel. But I want to thank you for calling in, caller. I appreciate it. I appreciate you calling. That was a deep call. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's kind of what happened. And I could be wrong. We can all be wrong, but I think they've just moved on. I think they've just decided no. So I'm going to 424. 424. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Yvette?
Not much. What's going on?
Not too much. Calling from Cali. Where can I get those graphs and instructions that you be presenting? Like, download them so I can study them and start getting those instructions. Where can I get like all that information from?
Oh, I have to let you know offline, fam. But I think all of that stuff is. I appreciate it, fam. But all of that stuff is. I don't have it all in one place. There's no. I don't know if anybody else has it all in one place. But I see people all the time posting a lot of stuff, but I don't have it like in just like one stored area. Just don't. For a lot of reasons, I suppose, but don't. All right, fam. Let me go to the next caller before I get distracted. I am going now to 773. 773. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? 773 fell off. So I am going now to 206. 206. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, sister, it's your man, Mark Black. How you doing, your brother from the Pacific Northwest?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. First of all, before I even say anything, man, that conference was everything. Thank you. And Dr. Cosby, thank you, Tone, and thank you especially.
Thank you.
It was everything I expected. And then some. It was fantastic. It's just what we needed. So I appreciate y'all and y'all's efforts in bringing that to us. It was amazing.
I appreciate that, fam.
Yeah, absolutely. Sister, I wanted to call in tonight because what you were talking about today is actually really salient to my particular situation here in Washington State, right? As you well know, a lot of states around the country have passed laws ending affirmative action as, in hiring decisions for the state, for education, and so on and so forth, right? And since we're talking about the crimes of the coalition, so to speak, let's highlight one crime that none of us ever really talk about. There's a group of Americans who basically now are on par with whiteness. They've been adopted essentially into whiteness. It started off with them being considered like model minorities, but now they're essentially surrogate white folks. And they took advantage of affirmative action programs to be able to get into colleges, to be able to get into universities, and quietly behind the scenes as they developed their capital, their actual economic capital. Now they're exercising political capital to try to end affirmative action so that no one, so basically they took advantage, and now they're trying to shut the door to make sure that no one else can come behind them now that they're able to access whiteness in the main. Okay. And I'm talking about the Asians.
Talking about who?
I'm talking about Asian folk, right? Asian,
okay. I thought you said the apes. I'm like, wait a minute.
So, up here in Washington State, they banned affirmative action in hiring decisions and things like that in the state. But the Democratic Democratic-led legislature up here passed a legislative initiative called I-1000 that actually reinstituted it. Well, now there's a new push to eliminate affirmative action once again. And guess who's leading the push up here in Washington State again?
Who?
The Asians.
Okay.
The Asian folk. See, here's the thing to note. You are absolutely right in that I wonder, when I look back at history, I often wonder, where in the hell did we get sold this bill of goods? Like, with the evidence being so clear that everybody who's tried to claim a coalition with us or an alliance with us have only done so for their own self-serving aims and goals, when did we collectively start buying into the fact? Because, I mean, the evidence is clear. We stand alone. It is just us, period. I mean, I've been trying to figure that out for the life of me, Yvette, and like you, I'm stumped. Because when you look at the data, when you look at the evidence, it's clear, it's patently clear that no one has done politics with us. They have used our narrative and our story to benefit their politics, to push their agenda, to push their aims, their goals. You see what I'm saying? But when it comes time to stand forward with ADOS, guess what? We can't find them. So I just wanted to let y'all know. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sister.
No, I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say there was a whole article I was reading it about that, which shows that, like, you're right. Like, there was a whole, like, they're pushed back against affirmative action and all that stuff, and it's just kind of like, how? I don't even understand we haven't even defined what solidarity is supposed to look like, because our solidarity has to be based on us loving ourselves and doing politics for ourselves first and foremost. Like, putting ourselves first. If you put yourself first and somebody is standing against, now I understand that the affirmative action needs to be just for ADOS. I understand it's working wrong. But if you can't stand with somebody in solidarity who is standing against something that is intended to benefit you, you're trying to fix it, but you can't stand, there's no solidarity in that. And that's the thing that has happened with our politics. We have people that have not defined solidarity. You have not defined solidarity strictly in terms of, this is what it means, this is what we get, this is what you get, this is what our expectations are. That is a very lazy way to do politics.
Absolutely. I mean, Yvette, what I think is completely mind-boggling is how we okay, I often say that we, being the conscious kind of America, are willing to jump on board anybody else's claim or cry for justice, right? We stood with the Indians in Standing Rock. You know what I'm saying? Whenever anybody has an injustice or experiences an issue in this nation, you don't even have to ask black people to step up. We're usually the first ones there volunteering on the scene to do it, right? But I've often asked myself, when are we going to understand that at the end of the day, until we're able to put forward our agenda, our aims, our goals, our needs, and have that same reciprocity, that we just simply have to refrain. It doesn't matter how we feel. We got hearts. We understand the plight of the Palestinians and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, I can't afford at this point to care about anybody else's issues more than I do my own.
And I'll tell you something else. Fam. You're exactly right. But I will tell you the other part of it. You're exactly right. If you drowning, you can't save nobody. If you drowning, you can't save nobody. But the other part of it is this. Politics and like your kind of, you kind of have to separate that from like other parts of yourself, right? So your heart may ache for people, but you got to know what I can do, and I have to stay on. I can't help. I got to help myself to get out of this because I'm going over a cliff. I can't pull a bunch of people with me if I'm over a cliff. I got to get myself out of this. Like if ADOS rises, that is transformational for the country, and then the country can do something different. I can't do something different as this individual. In my position.
Yeah, absolutely. Yvette, I'm going to go ahead and let you go to the next caller, but I just want to say black-ish, mixed-ish, gay-ish, damn that ish. It's us, period.
Yeah, we got to be us. We got to be ADOS first.
Period.
And let me just say this, too. ADOS cannot be exclusionary to other groups. We cannot ADOS. In order for ADOS to come together, we have to be on one accord. You can't say, well, we want all the ADOS to come together, and when all ADOS come together, you say misogynistic things, or you say homophobic things, or you say anti-male things. You don't black men. We got to come together. We got to be willing to put all this garbage aside. You hate black men. You hate black women. You hate LGBT. No, put all that aside to get our issues to the front. All this BS we've been doing, all this stuff that's been thrown in our group to divide the group and throw the group into 1,000 different shard pieces, that's got to go. All of that stuff has got to go.
I mean, intersectionality, truthfully, is the death knell of ADOS. If we accept it whole cloth, and I don't mean that in the sense that some people might think. I'm not saying we don't have ADOS brothers and sisters who are of every stripe, every persuasion, every class, every religion, so on and so forth. What I mean is that they get us so bound up in the narcissism of small differences, because these are truly small differences, right, compared to the overarching aspect of our lineage, right, our heritage, our unique justice claim. These things are small differences, but when we get caught up in the narcissism of that, right, then things that should bring us together, like
tear us apart.
Any other community in our position blows us apart.
Yep. And you know what it is? It's a bunch of little off-ramps. The way I think of intersectionality is a bunch of off-ramps. It's like all of a sudden we were on one accord and there were like 50 off-ramps. And you're like, what the hell happened? Everybody gone? Well, they gave everybody a bunch of off-ramps, so you don't got to be black. You can just choose this thing. Well, first of all, the off-ramp don't really work that well. For some people it do if you can anchor in whiteness, but it ain't But everybody's just tearing off. And it don't work that way. Everybody got to come back. Everybody come back, and I don't care if we have to have group therapy and figure everything out and who offended who and how everybody was offended and what we got to do. We got to come back to the ADOS group and get square on what our justice claim is and who got what roles to play within the group so we can do this and make this work. That's what has to happen. That's the only way this works.
Damn straight. Only one off-ramp, and that's the payment of this debt that's due. That's it. Yep,
and everything that comes with that. Because it's not just one payment. Thank you, fam. Thank you,
sorry,
friend.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but
No
I know you
problem.
got other callers, and I've been hogging your time. But it's just so much of a pleasure to talk with you, sister.
Thank you,
Keep
sir. I
doing the
appreciate
good
it.
work. Keep fighting the good work. Fighting the good fight. I'm reading the book, so I will
Good.
be ready for this book club's
All right,
broadcast.
that's what I'm
'Cause I
talking
haven't
about.
been ready for the last one. But I love you, sister. Keep it
I
up.
appreciate you.
We need you, Mama Yvette. Keep
Thank
doing
you,
the
man.
work.
I thank you. Appreciate it. That was a great call, fam. I appreciate you for calling in. That was a great call. And I think we have to all like be back here. I think so many people have thrown like, and it's not just one. It's not just one particular group, but we got to put all that stuff aside. We got to put all of that stuff aside. Whatever you feel, whatever you think you feel, whatever you feel, we cannot be discriminatory towards any ADOS people in this group. That's not what this is. It's not where you come in. Well, you did this wrong when you was over there. I'm gonna tell you about yourself. No. Go somewhere and sit down. Cause everybody got work to do, and nobody need to hear your hot air. We got work to do. We got real work to do, not play work. Real work to do, real group work to do. And like he talked about reparations, but understand like. We talk about the racial wealth gap. You got to pay into that until that is not a gap anymore. It's kind of like the Holocaust survivors considered to be standing in the shoes, and they're still getting their checks. It's not one check, and it's everything that goes with it. All the protections, the ownership. We talk about lineage therapy. There's a whole lot that goes with any reparations program. It's not just a check. Like we have to understand that having the wealth flood into our communities and into us as individuals and families is part of it. But it's a whole American project. And we have to really keep that in mind as we have these conversations. I am going now to 240. 240, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? You there, 240?
Sister Yvette, what's going on? This is Roz from the DMV.
Roz, they was looking. I heard you couldn't make it to the conference. They told me you couldn't make it.
It was a fiduciary responsibility to get my transportation alleviated. How's that for word salad? How you doing, sis?
I'm doing good.
Look, I was multitasking like I don't know what. Look, I was teaching kids and looking at the conference. How I do that?
Them kids all right. Them kids all right.
Yeah, they all right. That was a ditto day. Take here. Do these dittos.
I got these ditto sheets for you.
So I did see it. So, I'm going to be there in spirit and support. But, sister, I wanted to ask you about this. Did you see the CNN LGBT town hall?
No. I didn't. I meant to, but then I didn't. I've tried, but I didn't. I turned over there and I said, I can't.
I know you saw the clip where it was the black transgender that grabbed the microphone from the parent of the child that was transgender.
No, I
Did you see?
no, I didn't.
Yeah. Grabbed the mic and said, it's about the black, and y'all are forgetting about the black transgenders that are being murdered, et cetera, et cetera. I was so glad that happened, and I'm going to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was, you have to do the numbers. A lot of us, like you say, can't count. We need to do the math. There was a mathematician that actually had taken the numbers from what was working of who and what, and I actually have it on the ADOS DMV region page. And what's being shown is that people aren't being murdered, and they said black transgenders are being murdered at about or less than rate of black men. So basically, it wasn't that they were being murdered because they were transgendered. It was less than the rate of black men in the community. So that's one of the things people can start throwing out. Okay, well, at that escape hatch of I can get out of where I am because I'm transgender. It's because you black.
See, that's what people don't. That's what people don't understand. Like you are a bottom caste group, and so you're already a bottom caste group. That's already where you are. So like so much of what you are experiencing in terms of is because like It's because of that. Like, so much of that. Like, it's not just one thing. Like, you're a black person. You're an ADOS person. We've always been murdered, lynched, and all that other stuff. What do you think? What do you? I get what you're saying, Rob. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Because another thing I wanted to say too is that I know we need some kind of psychological reparations and monetary reparations when we do get it. Because you can sit here and tell people, look, I can't fight for intersectionality. I'm fighting for ADOS. They're ADOS, and they will sit there and dump over 50 people to try and attack you for fighting for them. So that right there doesn't make sense. It's like you said. It's like you're drowning, surrounded by sharks, and you're worried about people that are up in the cruise ship. That doesn't make sense.
That's because you don't know they're in a cruise ship. You have no idea because you ain't never had a cruise ship. You don't know what that look like. You don't even know what that is.
Oh, no. We sitting up here drowning and fighting sharks and can't swim. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And nobody's throwing us a life raft or trying to get us up out the water. They're sitting there taking video cameras of the action that's happening while they're benefiting from it. They see what's happening to them? This is incredible, right? This is a movie. But one of the things I want everybody to know, we do have our ADOS DMV conference call tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're doing a lot of big things trying to get ready for our to support the 1865 or 1860. I'm saying 1865, 1866 civil rights for Byron Allen and for ourselves over at the Supreme Court. So definitely, if you want to be on that call, family, be on that call. Check us out on the ADOS DMV or the ADOS DMV region pages on Facebook, and all the information is there.
All right, Roz, I appreciate it. Check out Roz. She got a lot. She running it. She running it over there. You know how it goes. You know how it goes. So check her out and check out the ADOS. She said the DMV Facebook page. And they'll be talking about that because the Byron Allen lawsuit is about collective uplift. We don't do individual uplift here. That law is important. We don't do things it's just for individuals. So she's absolutely right. And so I'm going to the next call. I'm going to probably 2 more callers. I'm going to 312. 312. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. This is Saeed from Chicago. How's it going?
Pretty good.
That's good. This is a great show that you had because this is something I've been thinking about for like months now. So I just wanted to basically reiterate pretty much everything you just said on the show and some of what the callers have touched on.
Okay.
So for the feminist movement and the trans movement, et cetera, it's very difficult for them to, I guess, stand on their own. They need ADOS as a crutch. So, for example, with the feminist movement, black men make 85 cents for every dollar a white woman earns. And black women earn 75 cents for every dollar a white woman earns. As far as the trans movement goes, as your caller just stated, 18 of the 19 trans murder victims this year have been black. And you can do this for almost and you can do this for almost every movement that people are out there talking about. So, like environmental movements. A study showed that race is the best indicator to whether or not a person lives near a toxic waste site. And as far as healthcare is concerned, ADOS women are more adverse, have more adverse birth outcomes than any other group. Like race is a determinant to whether or not a woman will have an adverse birth outcome. And it's really just ADOS women because they studied black immigrant women coming to America, and their adverse birth outcomes were nearly the same as white women. So it's not genetic. It's essentially being ADOS. And all of these movements use ADOS as a crutch to get their money and funding, and it really blows my mind. Like your other caller said, it really blows my mind because if the government truly wanted to fix women's rights, trans rights, climate change, healthcare, to fix these issues, if they were to pass reparations, there would be a significant reduction in all of these issues across the board. And so I'm glad you said this. I'm glad you had this show. You also stated that our political capital is tremendous, and which is a fact, and we are not the same, which is a fact, because solutions for women, solutions for employment, they're not solutions for ADOS. And you also posed the question, like, how did we get so lost? And the reason is because we were pointed in the wrong direction. We were marching down the path, and someone's like, hey, come over here. This is the solution. It wasn't the solution. They pointed us in the wrong direction. They tricked us. They bamboozled us. They did what you said. They ran a con on us. And so I started to think about this, and it dawned on me how this con works when I was watching that goofball Trump on TV going around talking about black unemployment. Oh, it's the lowest it's ever been. And this is how the con works. They start off by saying, look, black unemployment is twice that of white unemployment. There's so much disparity there. So what we need to do is create more jobs. That's the con right there. They switch it from disparity to, hey, let's create more jobs. And that's not the solution, because black unemployment has always followed white unemployment. When the white unemployment increases, black unemployment increases with it. And that's just the way it goes. And even though black unemployment is the lowest it's ever been, the disparity is still there. So Trump has done nothing to help black unemployment because the disparity is still there. So, I mean, you did a great job explaining the con. I guess another way to explain the con would be to say, okay, white people have unemployment. Black people have unemployment. But white people do not have a disparity of unemployment. And that's a really good attacking point that we can use when we're out protesting and demanding our reparations, is by focusing on the disparity. Look, guys, I understand that there's adverse birth outcomes out there. I understand that transgender people have problems in society. I understand that. But we, as ADOS, we have disparity, something that across the board no one can say. Like, if you look at majority of the statistics, ADOS has the most disparity, and they keep switching it to do this whole umbrella thing, and that's how they con us, and they've been doing it, I guess, for forever now.
Yeah, you keep doing whatever works. When something works, you stick with it. So.
Yeah, and it's the same old con. But thank you for the show. I'm just gonna go ahead and hang up. Thank you,
fam. I appreciate it. It's almost like, you know how. Y'all know how when you see them cartoons, like you watch Bugs Bunny or whatever and all them stuff when you little, and like they have these cartoons where like when they're in the desert, they start seeing a mirage. They're so thirsty and stuff. The little cartoon characters, they start seeing little mirages and stuff, and they start seeing little drinks and stuff and all this stuff, and like, oh my God, it's almost like we have been so like deprived that like everything looks like, you know, when you're that thirsty, everything looks like a huge glass of ice cold water or something, you know, or that's a huge glass of coconut water. That's, oh my God, that's so hydrated. Oh, I'm so thirsty. And it's just like, but it's not, it's a mirage, and we've kind of convinced you that it's something else. So I'm gonna go to the last call, probably the last call of the evening. I am going to 804. 804, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Josh from Northern Virginia. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's still static on my end. Can you
hear
it?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Well, first, I just want to say again, thank you for everything you do. Also, shout out to the other callers that were speaking before. A lot of callers made a lot of good points. I was actually jotting stuff down. But I wanted to just talk about earlier. So last week, I was visiting my dad, and we went for a walk with my 3-year-old son. And we went for a walk on the wharf out in D.C., which is a really nice area. They redid it, multi-billion-dollar project, and now it's to the point where, I remember D.C. used to be chocolate city. Now it's really like latte city, it seems like. But it's people pulling out yachts and stuff out there. Man, it was like an $85 million yacht. So I just decided I was gonna Google that yacht and see how much it costs. And because ADOS got me looking at things different. I used to kind of be enamored by that kind of wealth.
Yeah.
And used to aspire, like, man, I can get to that, because I was reading Robert Kiyosaki books and all this kind of stuff. But now I'm looking at it, and when I understand the data and understand like what that really represents is something different. So as I looked up the owner of the yacht, come to find out it's a guy named James Berwin That yacht was just built this year. It's a 210-foot yacht, $85 million. They made one of them. He bought it for $85. Him and his gay partner for 10 years, and he's a fifth generation entrepreneur. His great whatever granddaddy.
Hold on, wait, caller, wait. You said fifth generation entrepreneur. Count back, fam. Fifth?
Yeah.
Did you say fifth?
Fifth.
Okay, keep going.
So his in the mid 1800s, his ancestor was a son of German immigrants, and he started a coal company, and that coal company made a bunch of money, and they parlayed that, and they bought like Elmer's glue, and they bought a whole bunch of stuff, and they started leasing out their coal mines. Then they just started taking their wealth and just start purchasing other companies, and they have a huge portfolio of investments that they have, and he just can go buy like parts of Bermuda. He can go buy huge mansions, but also what he can do is he can hold huge fundraisers in Palm Beach County. I was looking on an article saying they got it to where the people in the Palm Beach County, they don't really deal with the discrimination as other gay folks, so they can use that economic power. And think about it. And this got me started thinking when you came out with this topic for the show. How in the world can we advocate, or how in the world can we abdicate our responsibility to advocate for ADOS and take the off ramp to advocate for that movement, when if you look at it, you're just allowing a lane for a white man to come now and get the same protection that you were supposed to get, because the two highest earning incomes is going to be two white men. You put them together, and that's the most wealth that is possible.
Fam, it's not, and it's bigger than just two white men. You are absolutely right. It's two white men, and we saying that as like a minority. How is two white men a minority? You better leave me alone. But the second part about it is too, like, remember slavery by another name? You mentioned the coal mine. Remember how many black men were re-enslaved in these mines and stuff to work for free. So we don't even know if there were black bodies that built your coal mine and your wealth to have that yacht, for you and your boyfriend and your white boyfriend to have as two gay partners. And now you're saying a minority when your life was built on black bodies and when your life was built on black bodies and the oppression of black people and slavery. Because when you talk about slavery by another name and convict leasing and all that, it was just another way to do slavery. So that yacht and everything you have, for all we know, could be built on some level on some kind of slavery, and then you want to come here and say I'm a minority just like you. Make it make sense.
Yeah. And just to end the story on that particular day. After I left there with my son and my dad lived over there in Southwest DC, and like I said, I've been around DC for a while, so I've seen the changes. But one thing that didn't really change is they left some pockets of concentrated poverty. So my dad lives like directly across the street, and for a few blocks over is project housing. And so when I went to take him home, I couldn't even access where he lived, because on the same corner where he lived, it was a murder. And then the police had blocked all entry like a couple blocks over. I couldn't get over there. A guy who worked for public housing, he got murdered in his car. And then within a span of 24 hours, there was 4 murders in that area. So, like, just the contrast, I'm showing my son is seeing the expression of I've seen generational wealth, and then I contrasted that to like extreme the consequence of the disadvantages of extreme oppression and poverty, compounded, and now like all within a matter of hours I'm seeing that, and I was thinking, like, at first I was thinking like those are two separate expressions, and then I started thinking, no, those are two expressions that are because of each other. They're intertwined. Like the extreme wealth
is because of our extreme poverty and our extreme poverty.
Yeah, they go together. They don't. American freedom.
Yeah.
Remember American slavery, American freedom. There is no American freedom, which leads to American wealth without American slavery. Like, they have to go together. That's the thing people say. People talk about, like, oh, it's just something that happens. It happened, and we get no. There's no, your wealth and your freedom doesn't exist. It's attached. These two things are tethered together. It doesn't exist without us being here on the bottom. Like, that's how you that's how you build the top for yourself.
Yeah, so exactly. I just, I just want to say thank you again.
No, thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
For just having this community, because it's really reshaping, and it's allowing us to see things much more clearly. Because it's a huge game to keep us confused and distracted and all types of things. So we don't focus on what we need to focus on, which is making sure that our agenda is the only thing that we are screaming about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for calling in, fam. That was a powerful, powerful story. I know the people in the chat felt as well. Thank you, fam. I appreciate that was a powerful story. Yeah, and we don't even include, like, the anxiety that he has to feel, like, to care about your father. But we don't have the money to, like, money flows down. We know that we don't have the money to take nobody out of nowhere. We struggle ourselves. That anxiety you have to feel to know that, like, your father. It's just so much that we go through. But I want to thank everybody for calling in, fam. This was a really, really good show. If I didn't get to you, I apologize. But I think we got to do something about the shoehorn, fam. And one of the things we can do, you can stop co-signing it. You can stop co-signing it, and we got to stop, and stop just being. Everybody got to stop just sniping at everybody. I don't care what particular group you are. I don't care whether you woman, LGBT. I don't care. Stop sniping at women. Stop sniping at men. Stop sniping at everybody. Like, it's almost like we have snipers on. No, don't do that. We have to find a way to be cohesive, because we have something to do and we have a community to build. That has to happen. Nothing happens without that. So as we go, fam, remember the 24th. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community. We're going to talk about some of the points. That I raised during my speech, and some of the points that King raised, and talk about how we go from one point to the other. We got to have the conversation about it. We got to have a conversation about where do we go from here. I think the ADOS movement is the answer to King's question, honestly. A lot of the issues that he raised, and we still deal with a lot of the same issues ourselves. So that's just kind of where that is. So I want to thank you, fam, for this evening. If you have shirts or whatever, all of those will be out. Some went out already, but this week everything goes out. So just so you know, like, what happened? Yvette got caught up in the conference. I did what I said I was going to do in terms of, if it was by the September the 10th, all those went out. But yeah, everything else will go out this week, just so you know. If you haven't bought a shirt and you want one, ADOSmerch.com is in the description. And so, fam, until next time, hit that like button though before you leave. Cost you no money to hit that like button before you leave. And go to subscribe-to-brown.com, to.com, subscribe to Brown. And just add your name to my email mailing list. That would be appreciated if you could do that. If you can hit that bell. If you have not hit that bell, hit subscribe. If you have not hit that subscribe button, that will help me out a lot. And fam, please finish your libations. If you had libations, finish your libations. We will talk next time on the show and have another conversation. But, let's get about the business of cohesion and doing what we got to do for ourselves, and stop this little fake solidarity march that we on. All right, fam? Okay, get some rest.